Tensions between Iran, the United States, and Israel have been simmering for decades. The 1979 Islamic Revolution, U.S. sanctions, proxy wars in Syria and Iraq, cyber warfare, assassinations of top generals, and the nuclear question have all contributed to a fragile and volatile status quo. But in recent months, that fragile peace has shattered. After a series of escalations between Israeli forces and Iranian proxies in Syria and Lebanon, Tehran issued a stark warning. Any further aggression would be met with direct retaliation. That retaliation came faster and harder than anyone expected. The attack begins. It began with a wave of ballistic missiles. Over 100 were launched from Iranian territory, targeting U.S. bases in Erbil, Al-Assad, and Kuwait. Simultaneously, drones, many of them Iranian-made Shahed 136, buzzed the skies, striking infrastructure and defense systems. Explosions tore through airstrips, fuel depots, radar installations, and command centers. Casualties were reported within hours. U.S. military personnel scrambled for shelter as fire engulfed entire sections of bases once considered untouchable. This was the most direct and large-scale Iranian assault on American assets since the 1979 revolution. The strikes were not random. Intelligence later revealed that Iran had mapped out specific high-value targets. Satellite images confirmed the destruction, hangars reduced to rubble, Patriot missile batteries disabled, and logistical hubs annihilated. In Kuwait, a key supply route for American operations in the region was heavily damaged. In Saudi Arabia, oil facilities affiliated with American companies were also hit, signaling Iran's intent to destabilize not just military capacity, but economic interests too. Estimates of the damage crossed hundreds of millions of dollars within the first 24 hours. As U.S. forces assessed the damage, Israel took immediate action. Fearing a larger Iranian offensive, Israeli jets launched strikes on IRGC positions in Syria and southern Lebanon. The region erupted. Hamas and Hezbollah, both backed by Iran, fired rockets into northern Israel. Israeli cities like Haifa and Nahariya went into lockdown. The Iron Dome lit up the night sky as missiles rained down. In response, Israel expanded its military operations deeper into Iranian-aligned territories. The Iran-Israel conflict, once fought by proxies, was now dangerously close to full-blown war. The United States was forced to respond. The President's address to the nation came within hours. We will not tolerate aggression. Our forces will defend themselves and our allies against all threats. Carrier groups were moved into the Gulf. Our B-52 bombers were deployed to the region. For the first time since the Iraq War, U.S. ground reinforcements began mobilizing on a massive scale. The UN called for restraint. Russia and China condemned the U.S. and Israel. Oil prices soared, stock markets tumbled, commercial flights rerouted away from the Gulf. And ordinary people on all sides began preparing for the unthinkable, regional war turning global. Despite international pressure, the escalation hasn't stopped. Iran has vowed further strikes if Israeli operations continue. Israel, in turn, has warned of preemptive action against Iranian nuclear sites. And the U.S. now walks a tightrope, balancing support for Israel with the risk of being pulled into another prolonged Middle Eastern war. Beyond the shattered buildings and ruined military hardware lies the human toll of this conflict, often unseen and underreported. Civilians caught in the crossfire in Iraq and Syria face displacement, injuries, and death. Families living near U.S. bases describe the terror of sudden explosions, the earth shaking beneath their feet, and the nightmare of uncertainty that follows. Soldiers, many of them young and far from home, grapple with fear, loss, and the burden of retaliation. The trauma is immediate and lasting. Reports from hospitals in the region tell of overwhelmed emergency rooms, shortages of medical supplies, and the haunting reality of war casualties. While missiles and drones dominate headlines, a quieter but equally dangerous front is unfolding: cyber warfare. Just hours before the missile strikes, Iranian hackers reportedly infiltrated multiple U.S. defense networks. Critical systems were compromised, communications disrupted, and sensitive data stolen. Experts warn that these cyber attacks are designed not just to disrupt, but to pave the way for physical strikes. crippling defenses before missiles even arrive. At the same time, Israel's cyber units launch counterattacks against Iranian infrastructure, targeting power grids, financial institutions, and command centers. The war in the digital realm is escalating alongside the physical one, with consequences that could ripple worldwide. The Iran-Israel confrontation is no longer a bilateral conflict. It's a proxy war drawing in a web of regional players. Hezbollah in Lebanon has mobilized tens of thousands of fighters, readying for a ground war with Israel. Shiite militias in Iraq, many backed by Iran, have pledged to intensify attacks on U.S. forces. Sunni groups, wary of Iranian dominance, have also shifted their allegiances, leading to a complex and dangerous mosaic of shifting alliances. Syria remains a battlefield, with Russian forces caught in the middle. Moscow has called for de-escalation, but has simultaneously strengthened its military presence, signaling it will protect its strategic interests. At the heart of this conflict is the shadow of Iran's nuclear program. Western intelligence suggests Iran has accelerated enrichment activities at underground sites. The recent attacks seem partly designed to strengthen Iran's negotiating position by demonstrating capability and resolve. Israel's military leaders have repeatedly warned that a nuclear-armed Iran would be an existential threat. There is widespread speculation that the U.S. and Israel could consider preemptive strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, a gamble with potentially catastrophic consequences. The reverberations of this conflict extend far beyond the Middle East. Energy markets have reacted violently, with oil prices spiking due to fears of supply disruptions from the Gulf, a region responsible for nearly a third of the world's crude oil. Stock markets worldwide have plunged as investors brace for instability. Shipping lanes through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's busiest maritime choke points, are increasingly threatened. Any disruption here could cripple global trade. Economies from Europe to Asia watch nervously, weighing their diplomatic responses and preparing contingency plans. International powers are scrambling to mediate and contain the crisis. The United Nations Security Council has convened multiple emergency sessions, yet divisions run deep. Russia and China back Iran's call for lifting sanctions, while Western countries condemn Iran's aggression. European nations are trying to salvage the Iran nuclear deal, now hanging by a thread. Some analysts believe that behind the scenes, secret talks between the U.S. and Iran continue, seeking a pathway out of this confrontation. But the window for diplomacy narrows by the hour. What comes next remains uncertain. Will the conflict spiral into a full-scale regional war, engulfing neighboring countries? Could a miscalculation ignite a direct confrontation between the U.S. and Iran, or even Israel and Iran? Or will international pressure and back-channel negotiations lead to a fragile ceasefire, buying time for peace talks? One thing is clear, the stakes could not be higher. This is a moment where history will judge the decisions of world leaders, decisions that will shape the fate of millions for years to come.